Visions, I've seen it in my manifestation. I'm sleeping this guy and gonna create the most viral knockout ever. We're sparring.
That's what we need.
We're sparring.
Warm up.
Some
I know
8-year-olds. I got the 8-year-olds in there.
If I find out anything, I'm gonna beat your ass, and I'm gonna beat Jaden on Love on my mama. I'm gonna beat both of y'all ass.
For them.
Will it impact Tank's legacy if Jake Paul were like to beat him or even like knock him out?
Dude, Tank's a 3-division world champion, 4-time 3-division world champion. At the end of it, bro, you can't take anything away from him.
Gervonta Davis just erupted after Jake Paul allegedly claimed he'd knock him out in only 3 rounds, a dig that added real stakes to the already noisy buildup. Critics and insiders say this fight puts Davis's reputation on the line, as it's rare for someone of his standing to face such a mismatch, and a defeat would raise serious questions. At the same time, if Davis can overcome the hype, size, and power advantages Paul brings, the victory would be memorable, a moment that could define how fans in the sport of boxing remember him forever.
I think Davis is more to lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. Yeah. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks
the answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah, but if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion, multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience, so we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing, and I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot that he still hasn't earned, mind you?
Jake Paul has ramped up the stakes by declaring he'll deliver the knockout of the year when he faces Gervonta Davis. He's clearly not treating this as just another fight. He wants a highlight that dominates headlines. His public statements suggest he sees this bout as a chance to validate himself, shock skeptics, and create a moment that can't be ignored in boxing lore. By aiming for the biggest knockout, Paul is betting not just on power, but on showmanship, pushing the idea that this clash is about more than victory.
Fighters, because this thing is going to be watched by hundreds of millions globally. Jake, give the people one thing that you can guarantee that they're going to get on November 14th when they tune in to Netflix.
Yeah, you're going to see the 2 biggest fighters in America go head-to-head with an amazing card. World championship fights back to back to back. And that's just how the MVP way we do it. And I'm going to come for a knockout of the year again. I've seen it in my visions. I've seen it in my manifestation. I'm sleeping this guy and going to create the most viral knockout ever.
Rolly Romero has weighed in on the potential fallout of a Jake Paul knockout over Gervonta Davis, arguing it wouldn't seriously tarnish Tank's legacy. He reminds critics that Davis is already a 3-division world champion and a highly respected fighter in the boxing world. In Instagram reels and interviews, Romero emphasized that one loss, or even a dramatic knockout, doesn't erase years of achievements, titles, and dominance in multiple weight classes.
Bro, you can't be mad at somebody for doing what they feel is best for them.
Will it impact Tank's legacy if Jake Paul were like to beat him or even like knock him out?
Dude, Tank's a 3-division world champion, 4-time 3-division world champion. At the end of it, bro, you can't take anything away from him. Bro, you can't be mad at somebody for doing what they feel is best for them. It's the same way Roach feels Tank is the best option for him. Same way that Stevenson thinks Tank's the best option for him, or like all that stuff, right? at the end of it, bro, we just want to do what's best for ourselves, right?
Facts.
Right or wrong.
Facts. Facts.
So just do what's best for you.
Romero offers a grounded take on the Jake Paul versus Gervonta-Tank Davis clash. He argues that regardless of what happens, Tank's legacy is secure. He's already a multi-division champ with serious accomplishments. Romero says Davis doesn't need to prove himself by beating Paul. That said, he doesn't dismiss the challenge. Romero admits Paul's size is real and gives him a physical edge. While the size difference is a legitimate factor, it doesn't erase what Tank has built over the years in boxing.
Too big for him, but like Jake Paul might be too big for him, or Tank might crack him. You don't know. Like I said, or as an exhibition, we don't know if they throw at each other or not, or we don't know. I don't know. I can't give an opinion because I don't know what's going on.
Do you think it impacts, will it impact Tank's legacy if Jake Paul were to beat him or even knock him out?
Dude, Tank's a 3-division world champion, 4-time 3-division world champion. At the end of it, bro, you can't take anything away from him.
Daniel Cormier was visibly stunned when he learned Davis would take on Jake Paul. In a recent short clip, DC called the match ridiculous, saying it felt like a mismatch and questioning why a high-level pro like Tank would step into the ring with an influencer boxer. He admitted he never expected this crossover fight for someone of Davis's stature to go down this route. He also expressed concern over the size and power disparities, wondering whether the spectacle could overshadow the integrity of Tank's career.
I swear to God, I was on a plane coming home from Las Vegas. When Luis told me Gervonta Davis is fighting Jake Paul, I said, get the bleep out of here. I said, you're a bleep liar. Jake Paul is fighting Gervonta Tank Davis. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. Gervonta Davis is that much better than Jake Paul at boxing. But Gervonta Davis in his last fight weighed 133.8 pounds. And I'm not over here in the business of just crapping on Jake Paul. I am much more respectful of what he's starting to build as a professional boxer. You're fighting a guy that's better than you. He's just much smaller. But that guy, because he's better than you, what if he wins? Everything Jake Paul has done is wiped completely out. Gervonta Davis loses to Jake Paul. Obviously, it's going to hurt who Gervonta Davis is, but he lost to a guy that's going to be upwards of 70 pounds bigger than him when he steps into the boxing ring. But I will tell you this right now, without a shadow of a doubt, I will watch this. Tank Davis is 30-0-1. You want to talk about Jake Paul fighting a real boxer? That's a real boxer. You can't make this stuff up, man. It's true. They're fighting.
KSI has criticized how hype and spectacle often drive these crossover matches, suggesting that they blur the line between sport and entertainment. In a recent video, he called out Jake Paul for ruining influencer boxing, implying that some of Paul's promotional tactics bend narratives to gain attention rather than focus purely on athletic merit.
AJ and Jake was never gonna happen.
I didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
You thought it was actually gonna happen? Bro, it's so crazy. I feel like so many people just believe everything online.
But that's pretty unbelievable on the other hand.
I feel like I know, well, okay, how do I say it like this? Atoma versus White. I had a lot of people bet on White winning. And I'm there like, you guys don't watch boxing, do you? You just look at a record and go, oh, Dylan's fought many more people than Atoma. That record says a lot. Atoma's like 18, not 18, Atoma's 20, inexperienced, one. I just knew Atoma was gonna just destroy him. And I think a good fight for Atoma would be him and Wilder.
Journalist Gareth A. Davies has expressed serious reservations about the upcoming Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis matchup, describing it as another example of boxing prioritizing spectacle over substance. Davies argues that with the glaring weight difference and the exhibition status, the bout undermines the fairness and competitive integrity that traditionally define the sport. According to him, the fight may attract mainstream attention and generate revenue, but in doing so, it risks eroding the credibility of boxing as a serious athletic contest.
Signed. I think we've gone out of the frying pan and into the fire, because we thought we were going to get Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua very soon. We'll speak to Frank Smith about that in the next section, obviously. Eddie Hearn was teasing it to me personally last week, £80 million on the table for Anthony Joshua to fight Jake Paul. But 8 inches in height difference, 7 weight divisions between them, 5 stone, 70 pounds between them. It's a joke. It's a circus fight as opposed to a disgrace of a fight, which was Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. At least you feel in this, you've got quite a poor, very big one against a pound-for-pound, brilliant, unbeaten little un. And the little un who'll come up to his navel will hit him with a lot of body shots. I said in the week to Danny Kelly and Charlie Brooker that, do I mean Charlie Brooker? No,
Baker.
Charlie Baker. That Charlie Brooker's a different person altogether. That he'll be throwing the Superman punch, the leaping left hook. It's going to be a very odd thing. It's called, in inverted commas, an exhibition bout. But everybody in boxing who is a name doesn't mind going in with Jake Paul because they know they're making millions of dollars. And that's the only reason that Gervonta Davis, who's being called the poison little elf by Jake Paul, and it'll be fun in the build-up. Everybody in boxing knows they're guaranteed to make millions of those silverbacks, those greenback notes that they give out in America, and they give them out for fun when Jake Paul fights. So he's not going to say no to it. But can you pick a winner in that fight?
Tank has also admitted several things about Jake Paul's fight that genuinely worry him as fight night approaches. He repeatedly brings up power, saying he needs to test just how hard Jake can punch. He's also concerned about Jake's size, reach, and how he uses them, since Tank's never faced someone with those attributes in a match like this. Tank knows Paul moves in different ways and has a mental toughness that has rattled past opponents. All of that must be accounted for. But despite those concerns, Tank insists that come November 14th, he'll adapt in the ring, rise to the moment, and bring everything he has. But supporters of the Paul versus Davis fight argue that this matchup embodies the new face of boxing for younger generations. They point out that Jake Paul, with his roots in social media and entertainment, taps a demographic that often doesn't engage with traditional boxing. His rise has brought thousands of new, younger fans into the sport. People who follow him online, tune in for big spectacles, and seek role models who blur the lines between athleticism and personality. Meanwhile, Gervonta Davis is praised for being raw, authentic, and unapologetic, traits that resonate with younger viewers tired of polished marketing.
Has been 4 years in the making, when a fairly novice Jake Paul made a wish list of future opponents, and right in the middle of that list was Gervonta Tank Davis. Many laughed at the time, and some still can't believe we're here. But these two young men are the face of boxing for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are the two biggest boxers in America, and they are putting it all on the line. One has the speed, the skill, the accuracy, and the one-punch knockout power. The other has the size, the force, and the unbreakable confidence to make this must-see Netflix.
Does Jake Paul have that concerns you?
What concern me, his power. Gotta test his power. Gotta test his, just everything, to be honest. I never been in the ring with Jake, so I could say a lot, but when it comes down to November the 14th, I gotta be in there with him. I gotta be able to, his arm reach, his size, his power, the way he moving and things like that. I just gotta adapt, as I fight him come.
Nakisa Badarian, co-founder of Most Valuable Promotions, has confidently addressed concerns about Jake Paul's physical advantage over Gervonta Davis. He insists size won't be decisive against a fighter like Davis, pointing out that Paul only needed the heavier catchweight because he's comparatively inexperienced. Badarian further revealed that the Paul versus Davis matchup wasn't a snap decision. It was always in the works after a planned bout with Canelo Alvarez fell through. He claims Davis had been pushing for the fight for years, and once the Canelo deal collapsed, the path to Tank was clear.
News broke, Jake and Tank are gonna happen November 14th.
Whatever weight they want, man, they're talking about it, and whatever it is, there's going to be a definitive outcome. People can talk about pro, exhibition. We're going to make sure this is as real as it's real.
Why was it, just out of curiosity, why is it not a professional bout and why is it an exhibition? Because I'm sure Jake would have taken the professional bout.
Nothing's been communicated as yet in terms of what it is, right? Similar to, if you remember with Paul Tyson, when we announced it, we didn't have the weight, we didn't have the rules, particularly in terms of the number of rounds, the minutes, the gloves. It's going to be the same thing here.
Gotcha. Can you just offer us any insight as to how these negotiations went? And the reason I ask is because I remember back in March, I was at Tank's fight, and after his fight in his press conference, he was asked, next opponent. He said, well, my next opponent might have been in my locker room tonight. And people asked him, was it Jake? He made reference, he made allusion to. Has this been an ongoing thing? And has it ever, been at a point where it wasn't gonna happen and came back, or was this always the plan?
Always been the plan for Jake to fight Tank once Canelo didn't happen. And to Tank's credit, he's a real bad dude, and he's been calling out Jake for 3 years. And people, it's funny how now they're saying size matters, Jake is big, when for so long it's been Tank would kill Jake Paul. And now you get to see if that's real. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Badarian explains that the size difference between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis is obvious. Paul comes in way heavier, taller, with longer reach, but he believes that Davis holds a big edge in skill and experience that can't be ignored. Tank has been a decorated pro for over a decade. He fights at lightweight, has world titles, a nearly flawless record, and many knockouts. He's shown adaptability, quickness, elite timing, and the ability to hurt opponents in different styles. Paul, meanwhile, though gaining experience, hasn't faced many opponents of Davis's caliber. Boxing fans across social media are claiming that Davis is avoiding big-name opponents in favor of a more lucrative fight with Jake Paul. These accusations argue that money is driving his decisions more than athletic challenge. However, others believe this criticism overlooks what Tank has already accomplished. Davis has built an undefeated professional record, won multiple titles, and consistently beaten elite opponents in his weight class. Suggesting he's ducking strong challengers risks diminishing those achievements.
We wouldn't go ever fight no Shakur Stevenson, no Keyshawn Davis, no Teofimo Lopez, no, none of them dudes. You know what I'm talking about? We gotta think and look at Tank Davis's whole career. He done made some bread, but at the end of the day, all that bread that he made, when it's all said and done, he ain't gonna get no respect from his peers, because we gonna look down his resume and we gonna be like, he was trash, he was some trash, he was some trash, he was all right, but he was never like that. He was okay. He was some trash, he was some trash, he ain't did nothing. Hey, that's just what it's gonna be at the end of the day.
But these criticisms don't take into account what Davis has already built. He has earned several world titles, maintained an undefeated pro record, and delivered highlight knockouts that affirm his skill in the ring. Opting for a flashy match now doesn't erase his prior achievements or diminish the legacy he's worked for years to establish. In today's boxing environment, where media, promotion, and entertainment matter almost as much as skill, there are multiple ways to pursue greatness. Meanwhile, Paul argues that championship belts don't define him. What he's done for the sport is already historic. He's broken viewership records, put on massive pay-per-view events, and brought unprecedented attention to boxing by merging it with social media, entertainment, and influencer culture. He's defeated recognized names like ex-UFC stars, Anderson Silva, and even Mike Tyson in a sanctioned bout. Moments that many say have outsized, typical belt chasing. When presented with an honorary WBA belt, Paul declined, saying he needed to earn anything true and meaningful, not simply be handed recognition.
Nah, they'll never give me credit until I have the world championship belt, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. But belts collect dust, and what I've done in the sport is unprecedented. Never will be replicated, and done it in such a short amount of time, just getting warmed up. They're not going to give me credit. But I don't need the credit from these bozos, to be honest. The credit's in my bank account.
Paul has already turned his gaze past Gervonta Davis and publicly named Anthony Joshua as his next target. This announcement set off waves throughout the boxing world. Some scoffed, others saw ambition. Given Joshua's elite resume, heavyweight pedigree, and significant size advantage, many insiders call Paul's plan unrealistic. Still, the move fits Paul's pattern. He's always pushing for high-profile opponents to bolster his legitimacy in the sport.
Anyone, anytime, any place, against all odds, and I like my odds. First, I'm going to kill David. Then I will go on to slaughter Goliath. Okay, so you have to think that the last one, first I'm going to kill David, referring to Gervonta Davis, and then he's going to go on and slay Goliath, referring to Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
He's going to go and fight a 140er and then move up, 135er, and then move up and fight a heavyweight.
So the lowest he's been, I went through all the fights. For his first two fights, his first two pro fights, he was 175. Now, this is all the way back in 2020 against Nate Robinson. Since then, the lowest he's been, as you said, was like the 185 around the Nate Diaz fight, and also for Tommy Fury. I wonder if Jake can get down to that weight anymore. But regardless of Jake's weight, I can't fathom how Tank Davis would be anywhere in the realm of what he would be. Like, it just, he won't even be in earshot of what Jake Paul is going to be.
What do you think? Is this fight a smart career move for Davis or a dangerous gamble? Drop your take in the comments.